Muchachos y muchachas. Wow, so we made it through last week, didn't we? There was a lot that went on. By the way, pat yourself on the back if you went through all the knowledge of all the controversies, Balenciaga Gate, Fashion Gate, the exposing of said individuals involved, you know, the details. And then we capped the week off with Ye and his, I'm just going to call them outbursts on InfoWars, and then latter day Twitter where he got nuked. And oh my gosh, I just feel like we went through a very violent roller coaster where there were steep drops, twists and turns, and jolts here and there, right? But it was just that. It was Ye being on InfoWars and his latest tweets that got him nuked. That really had, well, not the tweets itself that got him nuked, but it was the things that he said before he said the tweets that got him nuked. You know, it was orbiting, of course, the Balenciaga scandal, and his response to it really had me looking very closely with the stink eye at Ye, like, what are you doing, right? And I really wanted to trace back to his relationships in the fashion world and kind of speculate as to why he couldn't denounce or sever ties with the individuals at Balenciaga, denounce the campaign itself, and what other things could be going on that he can't do all this. Well, we're gonna go through just that. So hold on to your butts, secure your wigs, stay right there. We're gonna go through it. Really quick, I'd like to thank the sponsor of this channel and this video, Support the Second. As you guys know, your friend here is a very avid Second Amendment advocate. I love my constitutional rights. First and Second have been under fire and under attack as of recent. And as a patriotic American, the one that I am, I like to show my support, and which is why I would recommend this coin. You guys can get it for free. Just pay for shipping. Go to supportthesecond.com. On the front, it's got a skull with two pistols, and it says Second Amendment is my gun permit. On the back, you've got Second Amendment, U.S. Constitution on the back. You guys can get it at supportthesecond.com. Okay, so let me just refresh your memory from last week. It all started, well, at least for me personally speaking, it all started for me when Ye was asked on InfoWars what he thought about the whole Balenciaga scandal, in which, for me, this was an entire big deflection, not really answering the question, kind of gaslighty a little bit. This is what he had to say in regards to Balenciaga.
What are you doing? You're throwing stones. Oh my God. But you know, our moral code, we just cheated on our wives. We just fornicated. We just had threesomes. We just bought some sex on Instagram. We just sold some sex. We use sex to sell a product, but we don't like Balenciaga. Shut up. Shut up. I'm throwing the tablets right now. Shut up. Instagram is about prostitution, and everyone involved in any version of the sex business is as bad as the pedophile. So everyone shut up.
So if you kind of look at it closely, he's not really addressing the question. He's kind of deflecting, kind of saying, you know, well, you know, you guys are doing things as well, right? You're fornicating and right? Not really addressing the matter at hand. No. What we're talking about is Balenciaga's controversy in which they utilize children, the documents, all that. And actually, I'm going to re-mention this a little later. So those things actually happened, right? In which I think we're in our right to be outraged by it. We're in our right to cause an uproar together about it, right? In which Ye actually sealed his thoughts in with a bow later on Twitter, as he dished out several tweets in which stood with Balenciaga, you know, calling it a witch hunt, that it, you know, Jesus forgives, in which I'm just gonna say gaslight. It just seems like a gaslight. For those of you who don't know what gaslighting means, you guys can Google it for a more elaborate definition. But basically what it is when people try to make you feel crazy for things that you actually see them as true, right? So somebody can say the sky is blue, and somebody else can say, well, actually, no, it's you know, and I know this can be it, but they're saying, no, the sky is red, right? And you're crazy because there's red hues and blah, blah, blah. So people will gaslight you into thinking that you're crazy, and it makes you question your reality. So I feel like these series of tweets that Ye dished out are a form of gaslighting, because he's calling basically this entire uproar against Balenciaga as a witch hunt. And let me elaborate. Like, the CSAM court documents, you know, for free speech and blah, 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 that actually was there. That existed. That's not an idea. That's not a conspiracy. That was there in the shoot, okay? The children holding up, you know, bears with body harnesses and fishnets and locks on their necks and stuff like that. That's not an idea. That's not a conspiracy. That actually happened. The books in the back, you know, depicting maimed children and ritualistic themes and all, you know, weird, that existed, right? Balenciaga, by the way, has to this day never addressed that. Okay, so these things are not conspiracies. These are not witch hunts. This was a rightful outcry. Hey, don't do that. Don't make children the subject matter of your fetish, right? Like, should never be in the same room at all, right? So these tweets seem like a gaslight once again, which had me going back. Okay, what is a relationship that Ye has with these fashion individuals? Now, we can go as early as just a few days, just a few days before his InfoWars interview, in which he shared on his Twitter a conversation he was having with 𝘠𝘪𝘏. Now, I am not sure. I'm just going to preface, I don't know what this translates to. I don't know what Ye was asking advice about or what him and 𝘠𝘪𝘏 were exchanging about, but this is the conversation they had, saying, what would you like me to say? I believe this is Ye asking 𝘠𝘠𝘏, and then 𝘠𝘠𝘏 responds, stop, 𝘠𝘠𝘏, hate love. And then Ye responds, love cures everything, love 𝘠𝘠𝘏, Jesus loves everyone, God is love. Now, I'm not quite sure why people talk to each other like robots, or why text messages have to be so cryptic, but I digress. This was an exchange that they had together. Now, what does this tell me? They still had their friendship. They were still in communication. You know, Ye was not condemning 𝘠𝘠𝘏 whatsoever, right? So there's that. Now, as we move on, I want to make a point very clear. Why Ye would not denounce any of the campaign is still a question for me, right? Now, for example, Kim Kardashian, we caused an uproar, and, you know, people are still to this day in her comments condemning her and things like this, and rightfully so. I mean, people are in their right to condemn things that they feel in their heart are not right, and especially if we're trying to turn the tide in our society and our pop culture, right? So they worked hard at her. She took a few days to respond, which shouldn't have taken a few days. We can all assess this within minutes and see what was going on. My point being, the general public came against Kim Kardashian versus when Kanye West, when Ye stood with Balenciaga, the reaction was not the same. It's not the same. It's not congruent, right? Because people are still kind of siding with Ye very weirdly. I'm just kind of standing back and assessing all of this for what I can see. Because if you're going as dark as to stand with an organization, with an entity, with a brand that has ideas and themes, not just in the fashion shoot, but within their personal lives, that have these idealistic themes of hurting children, maiming children, and ritualistic type of stuff, I'm gonna have to say, like, that's a hard line. Should never cross that. So it's just a weird spot right now in our pop culture where people are actually still okay with Ye, even though he sided with Balenciaga and he doesn't want to condemn them for anything that he did. But is there much conspiracy to that, right? Because we have seen the Kardashian West type of family, you know, influenced by these individuals in the fashion sphere, more closely to the Balenciaga sphere. For instance, you know, you've seen Ye himself, as recent as the InfoWars interview in a Balenciaga gimp mask, right? Despite the controversy ongoing at that time, you've seen Kim dressed up in leather bondage. You've seen their daughter, North Kardashian West, in a gimp mask at 9 years old, right? So this family is definitely influenced by this orbit of, you know, fashion individuals, in which, you know, I kind of drew a similarity to one of the people's posts. This is Alban Adam. We're going to kind of get into him a little bit later. He's actually the husband of Lada Volkova, the stylist in these high fashion houses and their promos and all of that. He had this photo of a family, you know, just completely blacked out. It's very similar to Demna and Kim Kardashian, the Met Gala, you know, with the kind of just a similar ensemble, right? But then you also draw this in comparison with this family who are all wearing, you know, essentially the same thing, masks covering the face, you know, and it's just kind of unnerving just watching and assessing. So have these individuals made it a normalcy within the Ye Kardashian family to be okay with this? Now, moving forward, I wanted to kind of focus in on this trio: Demna, 𝘠𝘴𝘦, Gosha, Rubinштeinsky, and Lada Volkova. Now, these are known as like a post-Soviet trio. They have this very, you know, 80s punk vibe to them coming out of the Soviet era, and which is what is thought to be them bringing this over to the Western Hemisphere in the fashion industry, right? So I wanted to focus in on Demna first, because this is essentially the person that Ye flocked to back in 2015 when they first started becoming friends. You know, Demna was a creative with 𝘠𝘓𝘕, another fashion house, in which you can see Ye here back in 2015. He's wearing a 𝘠𝘓𝘕 hoodie. He was pictured wearing this hoodie multiple times, multiple occasions. And, you know, this was really the beginning of their friendship, as it is rumored. Now, back in 2016, 1 year forward, you can see that Ye starts publicly displaying his, you know, admiration for Demna. Here is a tweet, or there are several tweets out there that revolve around Demna, but this one here says, "I'm going to steal Demna from Balenciaga," in which was a self-fulfilling prophecy, because he later did actually collaborate with Demna on several different projects, with Yeezy to Donda and Gap and Adidas and Balenciaga, you know, the list goes on. They have long collaborated on multiple projects together. Now, you know, just kind of taking a focus in on Demna a little bit, I was doing a few, you know, excavations into his personal life. I did find this bio piece that New York Times actually did on him, in which, you know, kind of gives us a lot more context as to where his mind is at. You know, I think with anybody in their upbringing, their childhood, it kind of does illustrate out with their adulthood. Now, there is this piece right here where, as a quote, once again, it just kind of manifests and illustrates into what we see in the fashion world, where he says, "I take something and I make something." And he points to his 2023 collection for Balenciaga, where it included models with wool coats, sequin gowns, and worn full-body latex bondage suits. For another designer, the S&M gear might have been a little more than an outer gesture, but he says, this is a quote, "was very personal to me, part of my sexual education," right? And so how can we parallel this with what we saw recently with the children, right? Children in these types of scenarios with the harnesses and the fishnets, and then you have the documentation, like everything kind of pieced together holistically. Is this why it got signed off? I'm just asking. I don't know. And then it gets really dark in the next quote, and I'm just going to read this out for you verbatim from the article on New York Times, where it says, it describes 𝘠𝘚. His sexuality is something 𝘠𝘚 can't discuss without some degree of sadness creeping into his voice. An early encounter with a neighborhood friend ended abruptly when a family member walked in on them and forbade 𝘠𝘚 from seeing the boy again. The first man he fell in love with, who introduced him to sex clubs and cruising spots, taught me how to love him, he says, but unfortunately not how to love myself. The most difficult indignity, though, is the one that hasn't happened. I can't go back to Georgia because people have threatened to kill me if I return. My own uncle is one of them. So, which to me, once again, like if you caught the first part of that excerpt, it shows me that 𝘠𝘚 possibly had an early onset experience with his, S-word nature, right? In which translated into his early adulthood, going to those sex clubs with his partner and all that. Like, so it kind of shows like an early door to that world and the fetishes and all that. That's just that's my personal assessment. You guys can let me know what you think in the comments below. And so this really segues seamlessly into actually it wasn't Lada, it was his own post. It was his own post on his Instagram, where it seems to be that this comes from a fashion magazine. I'm not quite sure which one, but this is a quote from what his post says. It says, someone wrote that Lada Volkova, Gosha Rubinштейnsky, and I grew up on child P-word and radiation from Chernobyl, which is why we're all so effed up. 𝘠𝘚 𝘠𝘴𝘦, right? So again, this kind of like ties everything together. Like, okay, like he's talking about his childhood, his upbringing into his adolescence, and, having those experiences with S-word nature, asexual nature and all that, right? And then it kind of weaves together with this one quote talking about Lada and Gosha and 𝘠𝘚 having some form of this in their upbringing, right? Now, we don't know if that was satirical or what, but it just seems to segue seamlessly. So, moving into Lada Volkova and, her involvement with 𝘂, right? Because that is the theme of this entire video. Now, there is this photo of Lada walking with 𝘂 in Calabasas down the street. I searched for a confirmation or an explanation to their collaboration, in which even through fashion publications like Vogue could not confirm what exactly they were collaborating on. So it is suspected that maybe she was styling for one of his recent collaborations with Balenciaga, with Yeezy, with Adidas, right? Because those are brands that she worked with, right? Now, Lada now comes in circle with Albin Adam, which is one of the posts that I showed you guys earlier with the family, and in comparison with the 𝘂 family as well, with the Kardashian West family. Now, this is actually Lada Volkova's husband, and they've been rumored to be married since 2008. So long time. You can actually see Albin Adam has had his work and his themes exhibited through prior promos and campaigns, fashion campaigns, right? So it's, again, just illustrative how these influences in this group kind of emit and radiate to what is manifested in the fashion that we see today. So Albin Adam interviewed his wife for Purple magazine, in which he asked a very specific question that I found the answer pretty revealing. It says, your work brings on quite intense reactions then, in which Lada Volkova responded, there are a lot of magazines these days, a lot of people working in the industry. I felt my role is to talk about something different, to show another side. When you flip through the magazine, you want to go like, oh, what's that? And then they go back to it. You want to be surprised. I want to create something that people will try to know more about, and then they love it or hate it. My work is very personal, and I'm very comfortable with all of it. I'm not trying to do something disturbing or revolutionary. I love underground cultures and talking about different fetishes. The dark side of the human mind, different types of lifestyles. I'm interested in something that's not conventional and not casual. So I think the thing that jumps out for me, and probably for you too, is the part where she mentions, you know, underground cultures and the darkest parts of the human mind. Well, how much more darker can it get than child exploitation and, you know, children in distress in certain situations, and having those illustrations out, which we've seen Lada put out, you know, and so I feel like this was very revealing. Now, here's another thing too, something that I want to point out. You would have to think, why did these people feel so comfortable to be so transparent about what they're into, right? What part of them made them feel at home to just share these things out with the public? So segueing from Lada Volkova, her husband Albin Adam, to Gosha Rubinштejnsky, in which we see these posts on Lada Volkova's Instagram featuring Gosha Rubinštejnsky. And, you know, I think even the themes of what we've been talking about still echo to this person. Now, bringing it back to Ye actually met with Gosha Rubinštejnsky back in 2016 in Moscow. It was rumored that maybe they were going to collaborate on a future collection, but nothing was ever confirmed. But they did meet for such a matter. Now, Gosha Rubinštejnsky, once again, just in that trio, right? He's in that trio with Demna, Lada, himself. He was actually accused, or the accusation surfaced in 2018, but the actual actions were alleged to be in the years prior, of casting boys through Instagram and asking for inappropriate pictures. Now, I'm going to let you pause this video if you want to read through these conversations, but these are allegations that have been made by a boy at the time. There was a secondary boy that actually came out as well and attested to the same sort of solicitation. So, you know, this makes us already, we're like, okay, enough evidence, right? That's enough evidence for me. A lot of the fashion world actually stood with Gosha Rubinštejnsky back in the day. Even his representative had the gall and the ball to say this: Gosha has been doing casting by Instagram for many years now. It is a normal practice nowadays. We always ask for face photos in full length and topless. Sometimes photos in underwear are required in order to understand the volume of hips, right? Once again, a gaslight. This is inappropriate. This should never be a normalcy to cast minors, to cast boys through Instagram and having them solicit photos. Like, this sounds like a crime to me. But like I said, the fashion world stood with Gosha back in the day. So this brings me back to my original point. What is it to this entire industry? Does Ye know, or, you know, what does he have knowledge of that he cannot, it kind of forbids him from denouncing these particular individuals and the campaigns that they have put together? So I shared in another video featuring 𝘿𝘭𝘠 and his friendship with Marina Abramovic. I covered the blind item that kind of alludes to Kanye West, his friendship with 𝘿𝘭𝘠, and how there could have been some underlying dark tones to it. Now, to one person, this might seem like a crazy conspiracy theory, but as we are looking at everything that we're looking at, it doesn't seem so crazy to me. So this is the blind item. And once again, it kind of just, I'm going to paraphrase here, but basically it reveals that, you know, it was allegedly Miley Cyrus that knew everything that could have been damning between 𝘿𝘭𝘠 and, you know, what Kanye West knew. And she could basically, you know, set off a bomb to Ye's career if she were to ever come out with this information, and which is why he didn't pursue a feud with her on Twitter. Now, as we look further, I'm wondering, is there something with the Balenciaga crew, or, you know, the the whole clique of fashion people that maybe Ye knows that maybe he can't come out and denounce them and out in the open for. I don't know. I'm just asking questions. But it definitely doesn't seem so far-fetched. And which brings me to this next photo, right? This is Ye with a fashion crew in Paris. It's a fashion after party where he's pictured on the couch with his old flame Julia Fox, with Michelle Lamy, with Pusha T, Arnold Pultra. I mean, this is an interesting fashion crowd, and I'll tell you why. So, of course, Julia Fox is, like I said, his old flame. She had a very lackluster response about the Balenciaga thing, saying that men are responsible and that every industry has abuse, which is true, right? Every industry does have abusers, but we're speaking on this one specifically that doesn't have a lot of light and a lot of exposure to it, right? And then there's Michelle Lamy, Michelle Lamy is an interesting character, right? I feel like she can get her own video. She is the wife of Rick Owens, who is another fashion designer. And, it's not so much her fashion choices. Like, I actually think some of the pieces that she wears are kind of cool. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I'm not going to be a hypocrite. But it's the context. It's the themes and the things that these people are into that kind of make it look holistically darker. For instance, her daughter is an artist and she paints these murals that are dark. This one in particular, where Michelle Lamy is pictured in front of, where there's like a Moloch bullish type of figure with the third eye with his nunu hanging out. And it seems to be glorified as a focal point in this mural. There is a mosaic in which I believe this is her daughter's work, Scarlet Rouge, where it seems to be a pentagram with inscriptions in a different language that I don't understand, honestly. But it's what's in front of it, right? It is a man holding a sickle without his leg and what seems to be devouring a baby, right? So it's like, if you guys don't want to be called these satanic elite PDF files, then why do you have themes of this out in the public for everybody to see as if you're unashamed of it, right? Like, if you don't want to be called this, why are you exhibiting this, is my question, right? So that's to say, like, Michelle Lamy, she has all of these things posted on her Instagram. So, of course, people are going to think, like, why are you into these things? Or why is your daughter into these things and you're promoting it, like, as if it's normal, right? And, of course, she's anything but normal. She's, supposedly this fashion icon. But still, you can't post these things and not expect a backlash, right? And which brings me to the next person on the same couch as Ye, Arnold Pultra, who, again, he needs his own video. I mean, he has so many, I can't even, I'll give you an example. He is fascinated with human body parts, human organs, right? He is fascinated with death. Yeah, he needs his own video. In which he made this handbag that you see pictured here out of a child's spine. Like, that's a real child's spine he made a handbag out of. So his fascination and desensitization of, humans and death and body parts, like, it's just wild to me. So this crowd here just sitting together makes me think even more, like, how can you say that this is a conspiracy theory when there's really wild taboos tied to all these individuals, right? So anyway, guys, I wanted to bring that to your attention. I want to know your thoughts on this, Ye and his curious ties to these individuals. I know we're not, I'm not going to indict someone's character just because they're acquainted with someone in particular. I don't think that's very fair, but taking in account that Ye would not denounce something that's very obvious, right? CSAM documents and, you know, CSAM is not cool. And it happened. These were themes in this latest campaign. Balenciaga admitted it. They apologized for it. So this is not a conspiracy. Why can't you denounce it? It's simple, right? For that action spoke very loudly. His silence spoke very loudly to me, which is why I went down this rabbit hole. So let me know, guys, what do you think? The individuals I mentioned are going to get some videos on them. So stay put for that. But anyway, I appreciate all of your support. Please be sure to follow me on social media platforms. By the way, if you like this jacket, very comfy, you guys can get it at RedInkBoutique.com. Use code RED50 for 50% off for the holidays. I'm going to put the direct link in my description below. I hope you all have a wonderful night, wonderful weekend. I'll catch you in the next video. Bye-bye.